is the Creative Church Show. Tips, tricks, and shortcuts making church media easy for you and your team, all in under 10 minutes each week.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Creative Church Show. My name is Josh from joshblankenship.me. I'm super excited to be back with you today for episode number 43. And in today's episode, I want to talk about something called ROI and talk about how churches, and even if churches, should be using ROI. ROI is essentially return on investment. You'll see a lot of businesses use this to determine if the amount of time, money, and energy they are putting into a certain activity brings back that same or greater level of investment. So, for example, if a business is choosing to market on social media, are they receiving the investment back by doing either spending money on social media or spending money on somebody to manage that? And so I think it's important that churches realize that return on investment for churches on social media, or even churches doing marketing campaigns, is not exactly the same as a business would use it. So for a business, typically it's a financial thing. Businesses want to see that they are financially gaining from their campaigns, either on social media or regular old school marketing, that they are receiving more money than they are putting in. That just makes sense for businesses, but for churches, it's not always going to be determined by the amount of money that churches see. It'd be nice if the amount of time you spent on social media determined your offering for that week, but that's typically not exactly how it's going to go. So how does a church measure their ROI? I'll tell you a few tricks that I do to measure my ROI and to give reports to my leadership, to my pastors, to let them know that what I'm doing is succeeding. So when we're talking about social media, getting a return on investment for a business is typically about money. For a church, your return on investment is going to be about connections. So you need to develop a system in which you are tracking the amount of connections that you're making on social media. And one of the things that's important when you're doing this is to make sure that you're not just counting your number of followers, because that's not always a good indication of your ROI or your connections, because a lot of people will follow you maybe from another state or from another area in your state that are probably never actually going to walk through the doors of your church. They're probably not going to participate in what you're doing. And so that's not really a connection that is valuable to your church and to your organization. Sure, they might be great people. It might be nice to build some of those connections, across the state or across the country. But really, your connections have to be measured by the amount of people you are connecting with in your local community. So what I do is I go through all of our followers. I use an app called Crowdfire, and it tells me all of my new followers. And once a week, I will go through those followers, and I will see who is local. And those I mark down as a possible connection for our church. So it's not always people that you know already go to your church. The best way to manage and know your ROI is to make sure that you're counting new connections that you're making. So maybe those people don't immediately walk through your doors the next weekend, but building that relationship and that connection is a key to determining your church's ROI on social media. For traditional marketing, it's a little bit more difficult, but one way we've decided to measure ROI is that we, on our connection card that we ask every person to fill out on a Sunday morning, we mark, how did you hear about us? And one of the things we've done before is, like, when there are times when we've had a billboard out in town or we've sent out a mass mailer, we put that as an option for people to check so that we can get a better understanding of if the billboard or that marketing campaign or that mailer, whatever it is, we want to know if that's actually bringing people to the church. It's a little bit more difficult to do a traditional marketing campaign to determine your ROI, but it can be done. So I just want to encourage all of you out there to make sure that you pay attention to your return on investment, because if you're spending 15, 20, 30 hours a week on social media and you are just not seeing the results, it's not really worth trying to keep pushing it and pushing it and pushing it, because maybe it's just not working. I know that some social networks are harder than others, so a lot of people struggle to get ROI from Twitter or from Instagram. And the truth is, if it's not working and you're trying your hardest to do everything right, to do everything the way you should be doing it on those social media channels, if you're not seeing the ROI, if you're not seeing that return, I would highly suggest that you reevaluate and maybe try to find something a little bit different that you can try to get that ROI. So hopefully, guys, that helps you better understand what ROI is. Don't be afraid of the word just because it says investment in it. Churches should key in on ROI and you as a church communicator should be able to let your pastor, your leadership know anytime about your ROI, if things are actually working. That is something that every church communicator should take the time to understand and learn how to do. So hopefully that helps you guys. If you have any questions, I'd love to hear from you over at joshblankenship.me. Don't forget to also check out virtualmediapastor.com. We can help you there develop better social media presence so that you can get that ROI in your local community. I hope to see you guys back next week for episode 44. Have a great week. Peace.